This is a combat sport, okay? Those of you who have not been involved in a combat sport before, when we get to competition, it will feel like your kid is in a fight. You will get a pit in your stomach, all right? You will want to run onto the mat and help your baby. That is a normal feeling to have. Do not run on the mat, okay? There are referees that know if your little guy or girl is getting hurt, and they will stop the match if it's an illegal move. They will also always have a coach in their corner, and the coaches know what moves are legal and what are not, and they will stop the match if something is going on that the ref didn't catch. I say this because it's happened. I've been coaching for 8 years now. It's happened twice where a mom, I don't want to be sexist here, but it's the moms. The mom ran on the mat and like pulled the kid off of her kid. Don't do it, mainly because it doesn't need to happen, but also it's very embarrassing for your kid. Okay, so just take it easy on the running on the mat. Don't run on the mat. But it is a combat sport. They are going to get bumps, bruises, bloody noses, hopefully no breaks. We usually don't have anything like that, but it is a rough sport. There are moves in this sport that look like their arm is snapping, or their leg is snapping, or their body is bending in a way it's not meant to be bent. There are moves that are intended to do that. All right? It's part of the sport. It is a tough sport. It's a lot for the kids to do. All right? The training for it is hard, and the tournaments are really hard. From a coach's perspective, and I say this every year, when they're wrestling, it feels like the entire gym, all 1,000 people that are there, are watching their match. So whether they win or lose, they feel like everyone in that gym has a laser focus on them. It's a huge spotlight. It'll help them with public speaking when they get older, all right? But for now, it's a huge spotlight. So when they lose, okay, coaches, they come to the coaches first, and we'll tell them what they did wrong. When they come to mom and dad, you guys need to be nothing but supportive, all right? You did great. All right, every one of your kids is going to lose. No one's going to go undefeated. I make sure of that. If someone is going undefeated, I will personally find a wrestler to beat them. Okay, it's the losses that we learn from in this. All right, and we don't want to have a really negative connotation with a loss because it instills fear, and a huge part of this sport is mental. All right, I think it's actually a larger part than the physical part. Okay, you have to be really mentally strong in this. So if they're terrified of losing because mom and dad are going to yell at them, it doesn't help them out. So any dumb mistakes they make, trust me and the other coaches will be there to tell them, hey, we did this wrong. You should have done this. And they might not like hearing it, but we always like doing it right after the match when it's fresh in their mind. When we send them to you, please be supportive of them and just be happy that they got out there, because it is hard just to go out there and to compete.
I was gonna say, with that being said, with the loss thing, they should be probably in that area where they're losing 50% of their matches and winning 50% of their matches. That's kind of the sweet spot that they need to be in for learning. And the way our league is set up, we have different skill levels, and as they progress and they have a higher win percentage, they're going to get bumped against kids that are harder, and then they're going to start losing some matches. Like, you may start out as a beginner, and you may start winning all your matches, and then you're going to get thrown another guy that's a little bit harder in the next skill level up, and you might lose a match too. We want you kind of in that 50% ratio as far as wins and losses, because that's when they learn the most.
Yeah, and so that was the next thing I was going to touch on is the ranking system. So basically, all the wrestlers in the league are ranked by their coaches 1 through 4. 1, you're a first-year wrestler. 4, you're really, really good, okay? 1s wrestle 1s and 2s. 2s wrestles 1s, 2s, and 3s. 3s wrestle 2s, 3s, and 4s, and so on. Everyone who's a first-year wrestler is going to start off as a 1, all right? After the first 2 weeks, if they're undefeated, all right, then we'll bump them up to a 2. If they keep winning at a 2, we're going to bump them up to a 3. We're going to keep bumping them up until they start losing matches. The reason for that is at the end of the season, we have a Mason-Dixon championship. There are no more 1, 2s, 3s, and 4s. Everyone is in the same brackets. It's by weight, by age and weight. So and it's happened before where a kid wasn't bumped up the way he should have been, and he went into that Mason and had a really good record all season. Went into the championship, a couple fours got a hold of him, and his eyes bugged out, and he's like, I never want to wrestle again, because he got surprised. We don't want to surprise them with hard kids. They need to hit those kids during season so they know what's out there. All right, they don't want to have this inflated ego because they're beating everyone who's a first-year wrestler. We need to bump them up. Obviously, the younger guys on the younger side, the 6-year-olds, even mostly the 7-year-olds too. You're not running into kids that have been wrestling for years. It's all by age and weight and experience level. So usually at that age, the experience is sort of nullified. With the championships, you have to go to, so there's 9 league tournaments. You have to attend 5 of them to qualify for the championship. And even if your kid is not doing the best, right? He's lost more than he's won. They still want to compete in that championship tournament because the trophies, if you get first place, the trophy's like that big. It's crazy. Top 8 place. So sometimes even if your kid isn't doing well, there's only 9 kids in the bracket. And so he beats 1 kid, he gets on the podium. So it should be a goal for not only your kid, but you guys to get them to enough matches so that they do qualify for championships. That being said, some of our matches are far away. We don't have the schedule yet. We basically do a draft, I think it's December 7th, and then we'll know our schedule each Sunday. The furthest we had to go last year was Falls Church. We try not to go out there, but that being said, there are 26 teams in our league. A lot of them are in Northern Virginia. There are 3 tournaments every Sunday, all right, in different locations. If we only wrestle around Winchester, we're going to see the same kids every week, week in and week out. And then again, we get to championships and we're surprised. Who are all these kids? Where did they come from? Well, we didn't ever take a long drive to go wrestle some other teams. All right. At those tournaments, your kid will usually get 3 or 4 matches. Okay. It's a lot of wrestling. All right. That's good. The mat time's good. All right. But they'll get 3 or 4 matches. It'll usually take 4 to 6 hours of you being in the gym. It's a lot of downtime. A lot of kids bring iPads, switches, whatever to pass the time. But they'll wrestle, then they'll have an hour off, and they'll wrestle again, and then they might have 10 minutes off and wrestle their 3rd match. There's really no telling on the breaks between matches, but they usually get 3 to 4 matches every tournament. And again, it's against kids who are approximately their same weight and skill level. They'll be wrestling on full rings, okay? I know any of you have been to some other leagues, they wrestle on corners of mats, they get the whole circle. So that's why the tournaments do take a little bit longer, because you are wrestling a full match on a full ring. There are a lot of rules in wrestling, okay? Those of you who are not familiar with the sport, the scoring is confusing. You'll feel like, hey, why didn't he get points? He should have had points there. If you don't know what it is, you can go online and sort of Google search and find out, what are some of the rules, how do they score points, and that'll, once you get the hang of it, it becomes a lot more fun to watch. But the first couple matches, you won't know what's going on. What the hell's going on? I don't understand. At the tournaments, we tend to get all the kids together, get them warmed up, and then they basically, right before wrestling starts, they get a series of numbers that we put on their hands with Sharpie, okay? So they'll get, 105 and 149, and we write all those numbers on their hands. Those are their match numbers, okay? So that basically tells you what mat to go to and what number match you are on that mat. Just to let you guys know how it works, the first number is the mat number. So if your match, if your kid has 149 written on their hand, they are the 49th match on mat number 1. The 1 is the mat number, the 49 is the match number, okay? And basically they want to get to that mat, get warmed up, They are not allowed to wrestle without a coach in their corner. A lot of these tournaments we go to, they have 7, 8, 9 mats there. Sometimes they're in 2 different gyms, okay? Now, Willie Walters has a whole bunch of coaches, all right? There's plenty of coaches to make sure your kid has a coach, but sometimes we're not on track wrestling figuring out who's on which match. If he's getting close to being ready to wrestle and there is no coach with him, find somebody. Any one of the coaches will all be wearing Willie Walters gear. Say, hey, he needs a coach over on mat 7, and we'll be there. If for some reason we are short-handed and there's not enough coaches to get to corner your kid, that match needs to be bumped. It's legally, but in our bylaws, it has to be bumped. He is not allowed to wrestle without a coach. So if for some reason that happens, and it has, just say to the table, hey, he doesn't have a coach, and they'll bump it back a match until he gets a coach. Do not let your kid wrestle without a coach, okay? That is a big one, because there is, especially with the young ones, we can literally be yelling moves for them to do and walk them through it, and they'll win matches because of it. But we need to be there to do that. So don't let them wrestle without a coach in their corner. As far as, I'm sure a lot of you have heard, and this isn't super applicable to this age group, but we don't do weight cutting, all right? There's no weight cutting. First of all, it doesn't matter during these matches during the season because they're just scramble pairings. It's who's close to your weight. But come tournament time, there's weight classes. We don't do, hey, you need to suck 5 pounds or you need to suck 3 pounds. I ruined my body doing that, so I'm vehemently against it. If a kid wants to, get a pound off and it's a week before weigh-in, that's one thing. But if any of your kids come home and say, well, coach wants me to drop 10 pounds, none of us said that to him, okay? I don't want him to do that. I don't think it's healthy. It's not good for him. It's going to make him hate the sport. No weight cutting. But I know that's a question that a lot of parents have, so I want to address that. So we basically track weight. Well, we usually weigh in like once a week. Usually, we'll bring a scale in practice. We're sort of on the honor system within the league. So when we go to these normal Sunday tournaments, we have weights in and we match people up based on what their coaches say they weigh. Now we do have spot weigh-ins. Okay, so if we go to a tournament and whoever's hosting the tournament decides, hey, we're going to weigh everybody in, we do that. And I actually like that because there are some teams much larger than ours that don't weigh in their kids regularly, and they've been caught on those spot checks, and the kid's way bigger than they said he is. And obviously, if we see that as coaches when they're walking on the mat and we see there's an obvious size difference, we're just going to forfeit the match. There's no reason to put them out there to where they could potentially get hurt. But that being said, where the weight limits are, it needs to be within 10% of their weight. So if your kid's 100 pounds, he can wrestle someone who's 110 pounds, and that's okay. Or 90 pounds. That's right. All right. So it's within 10% of your body weight. That's how the weight.
And it's based on. There's not brackets for scramble pairing, so you're not. It's based on your wrestler. So your wrestler, you may have 2 wrestlers that weigh 100 pounds, but they may not even wrestle the same kids because it's just based. It's based on your individual wrestler. So, your guy may wrestle these 2 people, and then the other kid that weighs 100 pounds is going to wrestle the other 2 kids who are similar. It just gets paired differently. It's differently than a bracket.
One thing I want to touch on, and I say it at the end of practice every night, I tell the kids, so I want to tell you guys, try to feed them as best you can. Good food, whole foods. This is a demanding sport. I treat 6-year-olds like they're 15, okay? I make them run, I make them do push-ups, I make them wrestle really hard. When they want water, I tell them you got to hold off until we get a water break with the team. It is a tough sport. Their bodies will respond better if they're eating good food. So I know all kids love McDonald's. I got 3 boys. They all love eating junk food. During wrestling season, it does make a difference if they're eating good food. The other thing, showers, all right? When they leave here, get home and get them showered right away. Ringworm, for those of you who don't know, it's a skin infection. It's a fungus, very similar to athlete's foot, that is very prevalent in wrestling. It comes from dirt being on the mat, from your shoes, being on the mat, and then when they're wrestling, it goes into the pores and causes ringworm. We mop the mats before every practice, all right? We got to make sure that not only the kids don't come in here with their street shoes on, but also they're not wearing their wrestling shoes through the parking lot and into the hallway and into the restroom room. We will get ringworm if that happens. It's not an if, it will happen. So we come in street shoes, we take them off out in the hallway, we get our wrestling shoes on, and then we go into the gym, all right? If I see a kid come in with his wrestling shoes on, and he's coming in the parking lot, he's gonna take them off, he's gonna wrestle in socks that day, okay? Happens a second time, he's going home, okay? We've gotten too much ringworm on this team, and I've had it with it, all right? Impetigo is another one that they can get, not as common as ringworm, but it basically looks like a bunch of like whitehead zits in a cluster, which is again something that can be treated, but we don't want it, all right? And it comes from dirty mats. So we're very meticulous about cleaning the mats before practice. Please, as parents, be meticulous about making sure they only wear their wrestling shoes when they're supposed to be wearing it, which is in that room.
When they leave, make sure they go home and take a shower as soon as they get home. They shouldn't be like lounging around the house, whatever. Go have them get in the shower, bath right away, and wash the soap.
And anything that they complain about, my head's itching, all right, my knee's itching, and you guys don't know what it is. It starts off just looks like a bite, like a mosquito bite. Please make coaches aware, because there's over-the-counter stuff that you can get to put on it to treat it. If it gets large enough to where it starts looking like ringworm, they can't wrestle. If a ref sees it, they say you can't wrestle. You have to get it treated, get a doctor's note saying you're clear to wrestle, and then you can come back. Last thing we want to happen is if we're at championships and they get caught with ringworm and they can't wrestle in championship. It happened 2 years ago. It made me sick because I tell the kids, if you have anything itchy, you don't know what it is, show me, because I can spot it. But we got to be made aware of it. I'm not doing skin checks on the kids, every day. What else? The uniforms. You want to go over the uniforms?
Oh, yeah, I'll go over that.
Oh, no.
One other thing I will say too is that this sport is a tough sport, like Tom said. It's not a sport that if your kid's not feeling it and they're getting their ass kicked, and it's not something you should force them to continue to do, because you're not the one that has to go out there and get your butt kicked. They are. So if they're really not loving it, then it's okay to say, okay, we're not going to continue from the season. Like, I'd rather that happen than to have them have to go out there and get their butt kicked the entire time.
Yeah, there's no riding the bench. All right, it's a one-on-one sport. So if they're not into it, they can't just sit out. They're going to go out there and get beat up on.
When you're in middle school, high school, it is more of a team sport because you're doing duels and stuff. But this is an individual sport, so it's not worth putting them through that. It's not for him, and it's no big deal.
But if that is the case, right, and they're not cool with going out every weekend, they don't have to compete in tournaments, right? They can come in and they can continue to practice, and they don't have to do the tournaments, right? Or if they need to take a break, right, we're fine with that, right? We're not going to force it like that was said. So that's another option as well.
I will say that they're going to get the most out of it if they do compete, because there's no substitute for live wrestling, live matches. You're learning.
All right, I'm going to turn it over to JR. Does anyone have any questions for me? JR has a lot of information that parents need. All right, thank you guys very much. I appreciate it.
I'm JR. I'm the president, learning from Rob, who is our vice president. When it comes to singlets, right, I have them over here. We do have them for rent if you want to rent them. It's a $50 deposit. You can do check or cash. Either one is fine. And if you need to try them on, we can do that as well. But you give us the check or the cash, we write your name down, the size that you get, and at the end of the year, when you turn the singlet back in, we either give you the check back, cash back, or we shred the check, whatever you want to do. But if you don't turn the singlet in, then we cash the check and use it to help replace the singlet that we lost. When it comes to wrestling shoes, like Coach Tom said, in and out, right, we don't want that. there are a couple companies, in particular, I know Rudis is one of them. They sell these little covers, right? They slide right over the shoe, and it allows your kid to walk in and out around the hallways, wherever, and they just pop it on and off. That way they're not tracking that dirt and stuff inside on the mats. So this is an option. I will say, like, you'll see a lot of kids that are starting to wear these nowadays, just because they're so convenient. The flyer that I handed out, we're going to do a couple different fundraisers this year. This one in particular is geared toward our preseason tournament, which is December 14th. This is for ideally any businesses that you know, work for, have friends in. You can go and talk to them and see if they would like to sponsor a mat. We'll do there's two sign sizes, small and large. Small size is
11 by 14, and then the large is 20 by 30, and we'll print the signs out, and they'll be hanging on the head tables of each mat.
Yeah. And if you do get a mat sponsor, all we ask is that you have them email the email address down here with their logo or whatever they want on their sponsorship.
And I need to have those by December 1st or 2nd would be wonderful, so that I can get them printed in time. And then to piggyback, you were talking about singlets. You can also still order singlets off of my house. Go ahead.
I don't know if everyone heard that. So our Rudis store did close just because so that everybody has a chance to get everything in. But our My House team store is still open if you want to go on and buy singlets or any of the team gear, shirts, sweatshirts, shorts, all that stuff. The other fundraiser that we're gonna do is we're gonna do a gun raffle. We don't have the tickets yet. They should be in sometime next week. But ideally, we're gonna ask each kid to try to sell 10 tickets, which ultimately it's $100, right? We're gonna do $10 a ticket. And that goes toward, hosting our preseason tournament. If we have to host another tournament during the season, it helps cover the costs of the school, the refs, all that stuff. Like our preseason tournament, I think it costs like about right around $10,000 for us just to host the tournament. So anything we can do to help offset those costs is huge for us as a club.
And with that tournament too, it's an all hands on deck evolution. Like we need all of your help. We cannot run that tournament without everyone's help.
Yeah. So with that, like our tournament, like I said, it's December 14th, and it's going to be at Sharando High School. What we're going to do is, my wife Jennifer will put together a sign-up genius, and we'll be looking for people to volunteer to work tables, concession stands, the check-in booth, provide like food donations for the concession stand or the hospitality room if we do one. All that stuff. And honestly, we can't make it a successful tournament if we don't have everyone's assistance, right? I know a lot of you guys have kind of younger kids who will probably be wrestling in like the first session. So if you do volunteer to work a table, right, because you don't want to stay and work the next session. If you do volunteer to work at a table and run the scoreboard, when your kid's wrestling, just let someone know and we will find someone to come replace you so that you can go watch your kid. Like that's not an issue. Even if you're in the concession stand or whatever, right? Just let us know and we'll find someone to come replace you so that you can go watch.
The other option for that too is if you didn't want to worry about that, you could just volunteer in the session opposite of your kid. So like you got a younger kid, you could come in, one of the older kids will wrestle in the afternoon, and then you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. And that the nice part is if you do like a different session, right? It gives your kid who may be a first or second year wrestler, the opportunity to watch some of these more experienced kids and see like this is what the sport's going to evolve into, right? This is where I can go with it. Everything along those lines. Team Snap. I think everyone here has Team Snap. If not, let us know and we'll get an invite out to you. That is the way that all of our communication goes out. If you receive a message, whether it's personally between me and you or Rob and you or whoever, right? That means it's geared toward your wrestler, right? So if you have a question or, we're changing up practice or something along those lines, and you're on it, that means it's geared toward your wrestler. We will also use Team Snap for registering for our tournaments, during the league tournaments. We use that because you can go in and change your availability to either going or not going. And we use that because we have to submit a team roster by normally like Wednesday before the tournament. And we would honestly prefer you guys to err on the side of caution. Like if you're like on the fence, like I don't know if I'm gonna go or not, just say you're going. And then if you know for sure you're not gonna go, let us know as soon as possible. But it's always easier for us or whoever's running the tournament to remove people than it is to add them. So if you're unsure, you're on the fence, just say you're going. And if you're for sure, not going, let us know. We'll scratch you. It's not a big deal. The other thing is if you have multiple wrestlers, it's important that you create a Team Snap profile for both of them.
If you have multiple ones, I can show you on mine after we're done here, kind of what it looks like. But you actually have to go in and change it on the top.
Yeah.
To select your other wrestler to put their availability in there as well.
Yeah. Anything else?
One other thing about the Team Snap. So there is a team chat on there. I hate it when the team parents start typing stuff in there, unless it's like something that pertains to the entire team at a tournament somewhere. Like, don't go on there and chat on there. Send us a direct message. You can send us a direct message to JR or me. Like, save that team chat for stuff that we need to push out to everyone. Like, that's not something you guys should be using to chat back and forth.
I know Tom touched on it at tournaments, right? We'll use track wrestling, right? Track and flow wrestling are the same thing and they've recently merged, right? So the user side of it as a parent is gonna take you to flow wrestling, but I think you can still click on classic mode and do it through track.
So
But if you have, go ahead.
So on Team Snap, if you look, if you look at the posts, there's like an FAQs document there, and I listed the steps on how to use track. Now, it might change slightly because it's now switched over to Flow, but there is a way to switch it back to Classic. Anyways, I will make sure that is updated, hopefully by the first tournament, for it to work seamlessly for you. I'm going to test it out hopefully next weekend and make sure it works. My instructions work well. But everything we talked about is in that post on Team Snap under the FAQ. So it's a good resource. I spent a lot of time on, so you should check it out.
The one positive thing I've seen since they've transitioned into using Flow on the user side is that they do have a Flow Sports app now. So the app works pretty well. It'll put out push notifications, like you can add your wrestler on there, and it'll actually send you push notifications to the app. Versus old track, you have to go to the website, navigate to the website, and use that. So there is an app. Like I said, Flow Sports is what the app's called.
Yeah. And honestly, like if you guys are at a tournament and you're still struggling with it, this is my wife Jennifer. She'll be at every tournament for the most part. Behind her is Caitlin. Step up, come on, they need to see you too.
Hi.
This is
You wanna
Caitlin.
put me on the spot?
She's gonna be there, and we have a couple. Amber will be there probably in the later sessions normally, and then Allison Ritter will be there.
She does not know how to use it.
Okay, true. But if you guys
We
are
can help any of
Yeah,
you
I was
that
gonna
need
say, if
it.
you
Just
guys are
find us,
lost
have one of your kids,
and
find
you
one
can't
of
get, like if we're busy
the
as
moms.
coaches.
If anybody needs help,
Yeah.
come find me too, because I run pretty much a lot of tournaments and stuff. I know how it works.
Yeah.
Like I
So-
can tell you how to do any of it.
But that way you guys have plenty of resources, because I will tell you when it comes tournament day, like the coaches are running around like mad, and you might be like, hey, can you help me? And we're gonna be like, not right now, right? And there's no disrespect, it's just we're trying to get everything together. Anything else? Anything that you can think of?
No. I guess just headgear.
That's optional.
Right.
If
You'll see some kids running around with headgear. We don't. It's optional.
It's completely optional. You don't have
I will say for me, I have a love-hate relationship with headgear. A lot of times headgear can be more problematic than not wearing headgear because most kids don't wear it correctly, and that's actually what causes more ear injuries when they're not wearing it correctly, when it gets pulled off their head and will cause injury. So if you're not sure about it, I would say if it's a tournament that doesn't require it, which most of our league meets, you don't need it, just go without it. But, you know, if you really want it, I would recommend trying to get the headgear that's full headgear, like has the thing on the front and the sides, because that's less likely to come off your kid's head. Like my son wears headgear, he wears the full headgear that doesn't come off.
You can find that at Dick's.
Yeah.
You may have to go online because Dick's is only gonna probably
it
have
down.
like the basic Cliff Keen, like old school headgear.